So we are on E3, report other variables that might affect the client in a timely manner. So there's that phrase again, in a timely manner. They're really stressing to you as the RBT, your communication needs to be prompt, okay? It needs to be efficient. When something comes up, we don't wait around, okay, for a couple weeks, a couple days, okay? When something comes up, we need to respond and communicate as soon as possible, okay? So no different here. When we're talking about variables, clients can be impacted by any number of variables throughout the day, okay? Throughout spelled wrong, but you get the point, okay? And a lot of times what they're specifically talking about are setting events. Setting events are incidents or events that occur outside of an immediate situation that makes a behavior more or less likely to occur. So when we talk about behavior, we're typically talking about antecedents and consequences. Antecedents occur directly before the behavior. Consequences come directly after. Setting events are stuff that happens outside of that situation, okay, in the environment with other people, okay, day to day, that affect behavior, all right? So they're not necessarily our antecedents and consequences, but they still have an impact, right? So we still need to talk about them, report them to your supervisors because they do make a difference, okay? Since they don't typically occur before or after the behavior, you should still record them in your session notes, but clarify that it was a setting event. Okay, and we're going to get to some examples afterwards, right? Verbally communicate these variables to your BCBA. It's something that comes up in conversation when you're just discussing the case. Okay, understanding when these changes occurred and when these setting events happen can help pinpoint outliers in data. A lot of times a setting event will occur and it will affect the data in strange ways. And if we know what setting event occurred, it can help explain some outliers. That's why it's so important to communicate everything. Okay, even if you might not think it's so important, if it's a big change or big impact in the client's life, we want to know about it. So, question: setting events can impact our client's behavior in unpredictable ways. Which of the following answer choices represents a setting event? So A, your client's grandma passed away 2 days ago and his family has been planning the funeral. Absolutely, okay? A death in the family is absolutely a setting event that can affect our client. Even if you think they might be too young, they might not quote unquote understand what happened, there's still an impact, okay? I've had clients before, young clients who's gone through something like this, and at first you don't seem like it's registering, but then their behavior is very different for the next few days than what it normally is. So absolutely, a death in the family, some sort of loss is a setting event. B, your client was just diagnosed with ADHD and put on Ritalin, 100%. Medicinal changes, health changes, diagnosis, any of this, very important setting events in a client's life, especially with our populations who are more susceptible to these different medical issues and medical problems and new medical histories. Medicine changes, taken away, added, new diagnosis, absolutely, you should report these. C, your client was bullied today in school and attempted to fight the peer who's doing the bullying. Absolutely. Social events, major social events, okay, in the client's life, especially if you have session that afternoon, let's say, that can really impact them mentally. And although we can't track, measure, and observe these mental states, okay, we can record this type of situation as a setting event and then monitor the behavior change. Okay, and that's a very important note right there, right? We don't blame it on the mentalisms, okay, and the mental states, but these things do impact us in different ways. So if your client has a tough day at school and something like this happened, we want to know about it. So which of these answer choices represents a setting event? Well, all of them, right? Social, medicinal, family matters, all represent setting events that you should report in a client to, you should report in a timely manner. Continuing, okay, report all the variables that might affect the client. Clients can be impacted by any number of variables throughout the day. Setting events, incidents or events that occur outside of an immediate situation that makes a behavior more or less likely to occur. If you understand this concept, you understand what variables we're talking about, okay? More examples: change in medication, something that happened at school, poor sleep, a new routine, family trouble, etc., 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 okay? Things that happen day to day in life that aren't directly before or after a behavior, but still have an impact on your day to day. Think about your day okay? And how what you go through each day and each week and each month impacts your future behavior, okay? Maybe we can't track it and measure it repeatedly and in the moment, but you know it has an impact. That's what we're talking about here. When things affect our client, okay, these setting events outside our normal antecedent consequence, we need to know about it. So again, as we're getting into the ethics section, these are shorter, okay? They're more to the point. They're not as technical, all right? They're more common sense, okay? But you need to know them. You need to understand them. You need to understand what you need to report, okay, in order to meet these guidelines. So question, which of the following scenarios would be the least necessary to report to your supervisor? So this is where common sense comes into play, right? And we're looking for the best answer, because although you need to report setting events, there are some things that just aren't as relevant, okay, that are just less necessary. If you reported everything that happens every day, okay, it'd be just overwhelming. So we need to pick and choose. A, your client is getting braces put on this coming Monday. Absolutely. Medical change, right? Dental work. A lot of things can go into braces socially, physically, okay? This is something you absolutely want to report to your supervisor. Your client's sister just changed schools. Now, does the client's sister changing schools really have anything to do with the client? Okay, is it affecting that client directly? Not really, maybe some ancillary stuff. But in terms of most important, I would put this pretty low. Okay, so B is pretty good. Always read your answer choices. There might be a better answer. Your client's dad is going on active duty military for 9 months starting next week. 100%, right? If their dad is leaving for an extended period of time, that whole dynamic changes, right? Everything in that household, the routine, everything is going to change. 100% very important. If you work with a lot of military families, you will experience this, and you'll come to learn that this can have a huge impact in their lives, in their behavior, in their day-to-day. And the day your client is changing diets to a plant-based diet, again, huge, right? If they're used to eating one way and then they change diets, they might be more hungry, right? It might change how they act around food or how they act during certain times of the day. And again, while we can't necessarily track their digestion, right, or how they feel or their hunger, we can know that on June 1st, they changed diets, and the next 3 weeks, their behavior was drastically different. So we can go back, look at what changed, and point at this diet change as a possible reason. That's the importance of reporting these variables, right? It gives us some explanation when otherwise we might not understand, okay? So of all of these, right, the most or the least necessary would be your client's sister changing schools, okay? Not directly related to the client, may have an impact, may not, okay? But it's nothing that's directly affecting your client. So again, most important thing about E3, timely manner, no setting events, okay? Clients can be impacted by any number of variables throughout the day. All right, that wraps that up. Okay, again, shorter ones, still important. If you need study materials, check out our website or go to one of our links directly below. Again, we have 2 practice exams, the full RBT study guide and our combo pack, which comes with everything, plus flashcards. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Okay, I'll be back Monday. Any comments, questions, again, email me, leave them below. Like and subscribe. Keep studying hard, and I will see you soon.